Terry McLaurin's playing. JSN's playing. Judy's back at practice. Christian Watson's not, and Cooper Kupp is out. We have a lot to update with these rankings, ladies and gentlemen. Tier 1's going to stay the same, though. Jefferson, Tyreek, and Chase. Really, we're going to have Tyreek only ahead of Chase based off the matchup here. Most weeks, Chase will be in at 2, but this is supposed to be the second highest scoring game of the week between the Chargers and Miami Dolphins. Really like the matchup for Tyreek Hill. Also, if you look at the underdog pick'ems for Sunday, you actually have Tyreek at 88.5 receiving yards, and you have Jamar Chase only at 75.5 for their pick'ems on underdog. Going down to tier 2, we are going to have CeeDee Lamb here at 4. Lamb's actually one of my most drafted wide receivers this year. Wide receiver 7 last year from a points per game perspective. You have a healthy Dak Prescott. I expect him to be even better this next season. We will have Devontae Adams at 5. The issue with Adams is supposed to be just a low scoring game overall against the Broncos. Right now, their implied team totals only at 20 points, and I'd rather just have a player in a better offense like CeeDee Lamb. Then at 6, we'll be going with A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, tough matchup against the New England Patriots, but you still have his pick'em pretty damn high at 68.5. And we know that based on the offense A.J. Brown's playing in, he has a lot of touchdown upside overall. Now, our next guy will be Jalen Waddle. With Jalen Waddle, 68 receiving yards for his pick'em on Underdog Fantasy. Like I said when we were talking about Tyreek Hill, this is a beautiful matchup where I want as many wide receivers as I can possibly get in this game because it should be a shootout, especially knowing that the Miami Dolphins don't really have a running back you're too excited about. Now, Stephon Diggs at 8 will be higher than these wide receivers in the majority of rankings, but he has a tough matchup going up against Sauce Gardner. I've heard a lot of people in live streams asking, Mason, are we sure we can go through and play Diggs? Sauce is going to lock him down, blah, blah. Don't worry about that. He's Stephon Diggs. He's playing with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and his underdog pick'em is at 69.5 receiving yards this week. So if you were really that worried about Sauce Gardner, you'd always go take the less than 69.5 receiving yards. But actually, in this game, I would say you have my favorite pick'em of the week on Underdog with Josh Allen more than less than half a passing yard against the New York Jets. You're only going to get that available with promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Plus, if you are new to Underdog, you also get an additional mystery special pick'em. I've never seen Underdog have 2 special pick'ems the same week. Make sure you're taking advantage of that with the link in the description and comment section. Promo code FLOCK is also going to get you a 100% deposit match up to $100. Plus, our 2023 fantasy football rankings and a free trial to flockfantasy.com where you can find all of our content. But Garrett Wilson in this same game, tough matchup going up against the Buffalo Bills. I mean, obviously, you have a very good offense with the New York Jets here, but I mean, the Bills are favored in this game where, I mean, right now, Vegas has them currently sitting at only 21.75 points for their implied team total for the New York Jets. Now, Chris Olave will be our next guy at 10. With Olave, love the talent. Don't really know what we should expect with Derek Carr, right? I mean, you still have to go ahead and start him. Should be a lower scoring game overall against the Tennessee Titans, but a phenomenal wide receiver. And then Keenan Allen will be getting the bump up this week in these rankings. Keenan Allen most weeks will not be this high. And if you look at my rest of season rankings, I promise you I will have Keenan Allen lower than this because rest of season, the matchup won't always be as good as it is against the Miami Dolphins. And on top of this, rest of season, we should expect that Quentin Johnston expands his role. But Quentin Johnston looks to be the wide receiver 4 on the depth chart to open the season. So side note, please make sure you're not playing Johnston. Now, our next guy will be Calvin Ridley at 12. With Ridley, I mean, I think everybody is freaking pumped to see him actually back and playing football games. I know people will always say that we're a little too low on Ridley or not having him inside the top 10, but I mean, his pick'em on Underdog is only 62.5 receiving yards against the Colts, whereas Waddle's up at 67.5. And keep in mind, this is going to be a game where we assume the Colts don't score a lot of points and maybe the Jags can run it in the second half. Now, our last wide receiver in this tier will be DK Metcalf. You'll know Metcalf was higher in these rankings earlier in the week, but earlier in the week, we thought Jackson Smith-Njigba was not going to play. So now that JSN's good to go, we will have to move Metcalf down just a bit, even if we assume that JSN doesn't have a super large role week 1. Now, our next tier will be led off with Devonta Smith. With Smith, really like him long-term. It's just going to be a pretty tough matchup against the New England Patriots overall. I mean, right now, the implied team total for the Patriots is only sitting at about 20.5 points. The issue with this is the Eagles are probably just going to be able to run the ball in the second half, being pretty heavy favorites in this game. Now, Amari Cooper will be our next wide receiver. I think this is going to be a high-scoring contest against the Cincinnati Bengals. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, Joe Burrow. No, Joe Burrow's going to play, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I think you're going to expect a bounce back from the overall Cleveland Browns passing offense now that we've had Deshaun Watson actually training camp, preseason, preparing for this season, and getting an actual offense built around him. Now, Mike Williams will be our last wide receiver in this tier. Like I said, similar to Calvin Ridley, most weeks Mike Williams will be lower than this. Most weeks, Mike Williams will be in the following tier, but he's a must-start wide receiver, where right now the Los Angeles Chargers are projected by Vegas Sportsbooks to drop 28 points this week. Now, our next tier will be led off by Tyler Lockett. And yes, Lockett was in the tier above earlier in the week, but similar to DK Metcalf, with the addition of Jackson Smith and Jigba, you are going to have to move him down. Not worried at all about the Los Angeles Rams matchup here. I mean, the Rams look like they are clearly tanking. I mean, you have no Cooper Kupp, so maybe you're a little bit more concerned that this is a spot where the Seahawks are able to just run the ball over and over and over again, which is why I really like starting Kenneth Walker as well this week. But Deebo Samuel is our next wide receiver. Now, with Deebo, really tough matchup against Pittsburgh. Both these teams pride themselves on their defense. And if you look at the implied team total for these teams this week, you actually have Pittsburgh down at 19.5. Pittsburgh's a bottom 5 team in projected overall scoring for the week. And San Francisco's only at 22 points. So overall, should be a very low scoring game. But with that being said, Deebo Samuel should still see his artificial touches. Hopefully, we don't have CMC taking too many of the quote-unquote carries from Deebo Samuel. It's just a game that I'm not as excited about as most matchups for Deebo. Now, our next two wide receivers, great matchups. We're going to have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin here. With Evans going up against the Minnesota Vikings, this is a spot where the Vikings are favored by 6 points. We know the Vikings don't have the best passing defense in the NFL, and what's going to be most exciting is the Vikings should look to push the pace of play. They should throw the ball with aggression. So I actually think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get to run a ton of plays in this game, while at the same time trailing, so the plays that they will be running will most likely end up being pass attempts. What we can also safely say with both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin is these will be wide receivers that have such a high target share in this offense, even if you're looking at the offense being bad overall. I mean, you have no capable tight end here. Not only do you have no capable tight end, but their wide receiver 3 in Russell Gage is now someone that you no longer have to worry about. So yeah, the target share is just locked in for both these guys. I think maybe you're a little bit less excited about them in a non-PPR format, because they may not have as much touchdown upside, but full PPR format, they're going to get the guaranteed volume. Now, our next guy will be DeAndre Hopkins. With Hopkins, I do want to monitor Treylon Burks. Looks like Burks will be good to go on Sunday, and if that is the case, you can maybe drop Treylon Burks and DeAndre Hopkins down just a bit in these rankings. But with that being said, if Burks were to miss, then at that point, I think you can lock in DeAndre Hopkins as a top 24 wide receiver. Full transparency, don't love the matchup against the Saints. Also, I think it couldn't hurt if you wanted to wait a week and actually see what the Hopkins role looks like in Tennessee before you decided to go out there and play him. But now our next tier will be led off with Brandon Ayuk. With Ayuk, similar to what we were talking about with Deebo Samuel, very tough matchup, very low scoring game. The 49ers defense is elite. We're unsure if you're going to actually see the Pittsburgh Steelers be able to overcome this, and they may end up just looking to run the ball in the second half. Now, Drake London will be our next guy at 24. Another low-scoring game, and I hope you all are seeing a trend here, right? When you're looking at these rankings, when you are looking at these tiers, we have wide receivers in elite-level offenses at the very top of the rankings. As we get further and further down, maybe these wide receivers are still talented, but if you're playing in a bad offense that's not going to be scoring a lot of points overall, just naturally, there are going to be fewer touchdown opportunities for you and a lower ceiling in general. So that's why Drake London will be at 24. Very interested to see the target share in the split between Drake London and Kyle Pitts in this game. Now, Deontay Johnson will be our next guy. Most weeks, Deontay Johnson will be higher than this, but the 49ers have a top defense. Like we were discussing previously, the only teams that are projected to be worse in terms of their overall points scored this next week than the Pittsburgh Steelers are the Arizona Cardinals. Talk about Hollywood at the end. The Houston Texans, they have no wide receivers here. The Carolina Panthers, they have no wide receivers here. And the Tennessee Titans, who only have DeAndre Hopkins. So most weeks, yes, move up the Steelers guys. But not this one. Brutal matchup. Now, our next guy will be Christian Kirk going up against the Indianapolis Colts. With Kirk, a little bit concerned that he's going to be a slot wide receiver exclusive, right? That you're going to have both Zay Jones and Calvin Ridley in 2 wide receiver sets. At least that's what we saw through stretches of the preseason. And if that were to be the case, I think at that point, you have Christian Kirk as a wide receiver 3 in fantasy. Like I said as well, don't love the matchup against the Colts for the reason being is I don't know how the Colts are going to be able to go out there and get into a full-blown shootout with the Jacksonville Jaguars, or maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars look to slow the game down in the second half, not run as many plays as they would otherwise, and look to run the ball most importantly. Now, our next guy, Jahan Dotson, yes, was a must-start wide receiver for us at the beginning of the week. But at the beginning of the week, I did not think Terry McLaurin was playing. Looks like Terry McLaurin's overcoming the turf toe. Looks like McLaurin is on track to play on Sunday. So at this point, Jahan Dotson is no longer the must-start wide receiver. I would still rank him ahead of Terry McLaurin because there is an outside chance that you have McLaurin playing just to be the decoy and you have Jahan Dotson being the wide receiver one. But going back to what we're talking about with overall game environments, this is a game against the Arizona Cardinals where the Cardinals are horrendous. I mean, the Cardinals are projected to score about 15 points right now by Las Vegas sportsbooks. With the Washington Commanders offense, this is most likely going to be a game where they look to just run the ball in the second half. Like I said, Dotson is still going to be the guy I look to start here because of the McLaurin injury, but operating under the assumption McLaurin's good to go, Dotson will be down in this tier. If McLaurin were to be a surprise absent, then at that point, you will be moving Jahan Dotson up to the Tyler Lockett and Deebo Samuel range. Now, our last wide receiver in this tier will be DJ Moore. And I understand, I can already hear you in the live chat screaming, saying, Mason, you clown, Mason, you idiot. DJ Moore is way better than this. I drafted DJ Moore knowing he's an elite level wide receiver. The Bears are going to be phenomenal. You need to give DJ Moore his respect. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the projected passing volume that the Chicago Bears have this week against the Green Bay Packers, it is very, very hard to get excited about DJ Moore. It is very hard to get excited about really any pass catcher in Chicago right now. Like if you're going to go ahead and look at what you have with their projected pick'ems on Underdog, they only have Justin Fields at 183 passing yards. They only have DJ Moore for 47.5 receiving yards. Darnell Mooney at 29.5. Cole Kmet at 26.5. Chase Claypool at 15.5. This offense is supposed to continue to have the lowest passing volume in the entire NFL. And I know a lot of people are going to see this and go, oh, I'm going to run over to Underdog and say DJ Moore is going to have more than 47.5 receiving yards. Justin Fields is going to have more than 183. Guys, Underdog knows what they're doing. There's a reason these pick'ems are where they are. The passing volume is going to be very low. I mean, Justin Fields is literally at 15.5 completions. Now, our next tier will be led off with George Pickens. Pickens will be higher than this in the majority of weeks. Similar to Deontay Johnson, you just really have to be worried about the overall matchup that you have against the 49ers. Hell, Pickens has only had 43.5 receiving yards for his projection this week. Michael Pittman will be our next guy at 30. With Pittman, I've actually drafted a lot of him this offseason because we were able to get him as a wide receiver 4 for the majority of our builds. And I think he does dominate the targets in Indianapolis. But the fundamental question that you have is, does this passing offense with Anthony Richardson look similar to what you potentially have with the Chicago Bears? Where right now the pick'em on Anthony Richardson is only at 195.5 passing yards. Richardson is at 46.5 rushing yards. So he should be a very productive player for himself in fantasy football based off his rushing production. But you really don't know what the passing volume is going to look like in Indy. So I'd rather wait, see what Richardson looks like as a passer, see what this Colts coaching staff decides to do, and then at that point, decide to start Michael Pittman potentially in week 2. Now, Christian Watson will be our next guy at 31. Now, Christian Watson did not practice at the time of this recording on Thursday. If he is out there practicing on Friday, then maybe we can look to go ahead and start Christian Watson. But almost regardless, I would be looking for a better option. Now, what's interesting is also Romeo Doubs is banged up as well. So it looks like for the moment, the Green Bay Packers really have nobody to throw the ball to. And maybe this is just a massive Aaron Jones week. Maybe, I mean, if y'all remember Austin Eckler seeing 11, 12 targets in games where Keenan Allen and Mike Williams missed last season, maybe this is a game where Aaron Jones goes out there and sees 10, 11, 12 targets. Now, Courtland Sutton is our next guy at 32. Now, I want to put a massive asterisk on this Courtland Sutton rankings, ladies and gentlemen. If Jerry Jeudy does not play, move up Courtland Sutton, and then at that point, Sutton looks to be a must-start wide receiver for you. However, if you are looking at Jerry Jeudy, this is going to be a wide receiver that is trending towards playing, and for that reason, I think that we are probably going to be avoiding all Denver Broncos and a very, very bad offense. Now, as you'll notice, at the bottom end of these rankings, we have a lot of players that are ranked based off of dependent injuries, right? Christian Watson, Courtland Sutton, Terry McLaurin, Jerry Jeudy, Hollywood Brown. One guy that you're not having to worry about that with is Gabe Davis. And the added on bonus that we get with Gabe Davis is he plays on Monday night. So you're going to be able to sit here and you're going to be able to see, okay, does Jerry Jeudy play on Sunday? If Jerry Jeudy doesn't play, then let's go Courtland Sutton over Gabe Davis. If Jerry Jeudy does play, then maybe let's pivot to Gabe Davis on Monday night over Courtland Sutton. So it is really nice having him play on Monday, knowing that he's a for sure locked in guy that we can go to, just in case another one of these options at the bottom end is not good to go on Sunday. Like our next few players, Terry McLaurin, 34. I mean, he looks like he will be good to go. Like I said, we moved Jahan Dotson down these rankings based off Terry McLaurin's projected availability. It's a very good matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. But generally, when you have a player dealing with like a turf toe going into a week, especially if that is week one, where we don't really have any clarity on this situation, we weren't able to see Terry McLaurin last week to see what the role was like. More times than not, if he is good to go, I'm probably just going to be looking to avoid him because you don't know what capacity he's going to be playing in. This is kind of a lesson that we learned last year, where you remember T. Higgins had a couple of these moments last season where T. Higgins was questionable all the way until kickoff. And I was sitting here going, okay, if Higgins plays, you play T. Higgins. And then he went out there, played a snap, and then stood on the sideline the rest of the game. The last thing I want to do is have that happen again, especially with these options at the very bottom end in horrendous offenses, right? You have Jerry Jeudy possibly playing through the hamstring, but I mean, what's the real upside, right? It's the Denver Broncos passing offense. I mean, I don't know if we can sit here and say that for sure. I mean, all of a sudden, you're going to have a massive turnaround when it comes to the play of Russell Wilson. Even if it's a possibility, it's not necessarily something that we want to be banking on. So are we really wanting to roll the dice on an injured wide receiver? And the same thing with Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown popped up that he's dealing with a hamstring earlier today. And it's kind of like the same thing. Okay, this is going to be an offense that has Joshua Dobbs starting at quarterback. Do we want to risk playing Hollywood Brown through a hamstring? Probably not, ladies and gentlemen. Probably not. But I think that should be it for these rankings. If you thought that I missed someone, please let me know in the comment section. I maybe did. And of course, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football, and make sure that you take advantage of the special pick'em on Underdog Fantasy. Monday night, Josh Allen, more than less than half a passing yard against the New York Jets. Plus, if you are new to Underdog Fantasy, you get an additional mystery special pick'em, a 100% deposit match, our 2023 fantasy football rankings, a free trial to flockfantasy.com. You're only going to get all that with promo code FLOCK with the link in the description and the link in the comment section. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate you. I really hope you have a great day, and I really hope I get to see you in the live stream later tonight.